So hello everybody, thank you for watching this video. Everyone at the BHF would like to say a huge thank you for everything that you do and welcome you all back, as we've really missed you and we're looking forward to opening them doors to the public. So thanks for taking the time to watch the video about a topic that's really important to us at the BHF, your personal safety. So we're going to update you on what we're doing and talk through how to deal with a few different situations. So I hope you find it really informative and are able to take some of the suggestions and the practical support forward with you as you start or even continue your BHF journey to save lives by supporting us back in our shops and stores. So this video is for all of our volunteers and all of our team members who have been not fortunate enough to attend a BHF webinar so far.
So COVID-19 has had a huge impact on lives across the world. It's massively changed the way that we live and the way that we work. And we've so far adapted to this change really well. And if we think about what's changed across our shops and stores, we've seen Perspex sneeze screens at tills, we've seen face coverings for all staff and volunteers, and things like hand sanitizer stations. But the way that we behave has also changed. We need to be more mindful about the space between us and customers. And then in the sort rooms and warehouses, we need to be mindful of the space between us and colleagues. We understand it can feel endless and it's sometimes overwhelming because it's so different to our normal way of going about things. And thank you to all of you for helping to manage these additional considerations. The support that you've shown has been amazing and crucial in keeping everyone safe.
So I think we would all agree it's been an incredibly emotional time for everyone, and we have all had very different experiences which have shaped our views, our opinions, and the way we can respond and behave to things. It's been a time where we've seen huge promise of community spirit, giving hope to so many, lots of positive actions and also valiant fundraising efforts across the UK. But it's also a time of struggle for some people too. So due to missing loved ones or those added pressures of homeschooling and them extra health worries that some of us may have. So our different emotions can often range from anger to hope, frustration to empathy, and uncertainty to clarity very quickly, depending on the information we've received about the COVID-19 pandemic.
And it can feel very difficult when we hear or see that other people are behaving and responding in very different ways to ourselves, or we feel that others are not following the rules as we are. And it's really important that if anybody feels that they're unsure of the country's response measures that are in place or need to sense check some information which they've heard, that they use a reputable source. We would advise that the government website be the best resource at present, as this is regularly updated with the government guidelines. And you can find this at www.gov.uk/coronavirus.
There are also some physical implications which we have to overcome. So wearing a face covering may annoy you if you're a glasses wearer as they mist up. They can make your understanding speech much more difficult, and we can often have to raise our voice a little or ask for people to repeat themselves as it can muffle their voice. A face covering can make us feel really hot, feel sweaty, and even sometimes a little claustrophobic, as they are still a new thing in the UK. They are not something that, until this pandemic, the majority of us would have chosen to wear.
So all those emotions that we all feel and the physical effects can all build up into the way that we behave in a certain situation or the response that we give to others. This can often be incredibly out of character, illogical, and sometimes even come across as aggression or threatening behaviour to others. This is the same for us, our colleagues, family, friends, but also our customers too. And it's important to highlight here that the BHF do not condone or accept any levels of aggression or threatening behaviour from our customers, contractors, or members of our paid and voluntary teams. And we would never ask any of our volunteers to tackle or deal with any situation which felt uncomfortable to them. You must always seek help from the manager or a member of the paid team who will resolve the situation safely. However, this image represents all those emotions that any one of us could be feeling at any one time.
So volunteers are a huge support to our paid teams in BHF, now more than ever. We could not run our shops and stores as efficiently without you, as the day's work and priorities have also changed too. So our paid teams, with your help, are juggling day-to-day activities like processing stock, taking telephone calls, rotation and pricing, but also balancing that with updated cleaning schedules, floor capacities, and that responsibility for keeping everybody safe.
And the Charity Retail Association have also just launched the Shop Safe, Shop Kind campaign across social media platforms, urging shoppers to be kind and mindful of their behaviour towards staff and volunteers in shops. Some of you may have already started to see elements of this new campaign. The BHF are fully behind all that this campaign stands for, and as mentioned earlier, we will not condone any aggressive or threatening behaviour shown towards any of our staff or voluntary teams. Again, it's important to recognise that our response is in tandem with government legislation, so that ways of working keep everyone safe. The manager and paid team in your shop or store will be able to support you alongside our volunteer team and other supporting teams behind the scenes in the BHF, who have been engaging with some of you via the Staying Connected and monthly volunteer emails throughout the lockdown periods, and continuously reviewing and updating our processes in line with the guidelines expected.
So in all 4 nations, it's mandatory that customers wear a face covering in a retail store. However, we are not able to enforce that people follow this legislation. Instead, we can only ask the question and have to accept that the response that they give is their personal choice or their decision. We will use signage like this to inform our customers that we are following that government legislation and that it is a requirement to wear a face covering in our stores unless they're exempt. This signage can also be used to support any of conversations you choose to have with others about any face coverings. So although not everyone has something that's easily identifiable, many people do. So look out for a badge, a card, a wristband, or even a lanyard. These will help you to quickly identify those people who are exempt. If somebody tells you they're exempt but does not show you any proof of the exemption, we cannot ask for proof and mustn't take that customer's word. And please remember that we are not asking any of our volunteers to handle any conversations or situations which make them feel nervous or uncomfortable in any way. It is always advisable to get your manager and they can deal with anything that occurs safely.
It's not only face coverings though. We will continue to observe the safe 2-metre distance rule, be proactive around hand sanitising, encourage longer washing of hands, and all the other clean, use, clean principles. In our home stores, we will also continue to supply gloves and ask that face coverings are worn for any manual handling of furniture, as a 2-metre distance is often hard to uphold and we want to keep everyone safe. What about when people won't do what we're asking though?
So a few things to remember if you did feel comfortable and safe to speak with a customer about face coverings or any of our other safety precautions in store is that you're only personally responsible for you. And that means you must at all times think about your own safety. Do not put yourself or others at risk at any time. Most customers that walk in will have seen the door signs, they will have walked past the sanitising stations and will be aware of the government rules about how to keep COVID safe. So keep calm, give yourself a moment to think, even if their lack of acknowledgement for the rules is often frustrating to you. And it's upsetting when people respond negatively, and when it happens on top of everything else that you're dealing with, it's difficult not to respond negatively too. However, please call your manager who will come and deal with these situations, and remember to remain calm and friendly at all times. So let's look at a scenario now to see how best we could deal with a common situation which could likely arise.
So I want you to think about that question on the screen. How would you engage with a customer if you felt comfortable and safe to do so? And remember, the first thing to think about here is to remember to keep your distance. You do not have to approach the customer, but if however you choose to, then remember the 2-metre distance rule to keep yourself safe. Before we have a look at some things to consider, we'd like to share with you the BHF position in reference to face coverings. So, if a customer entering the shop is not wearing a face covering, what is the BHF position on this?
Great question, thank you. So the law does not require us to enforce the wearing of face masks by customers in our shops and stores. So no one will be expected to challenge any customer in our shops and stores if one is not being worn. However, if a member of staff or volunteer would like to engage in a conversation, asking, do you have a face covering with you today, and are happy and safe to do so, then that is perfectly fine.
If a customer says that they're exempt, can I ask for proof?
No, we're not allowed to ask for proof. If a customer voluntarily wanted to show you their proof of exemption, then that is great, but please do not ask for proof if somebody says they are exempt.
And if a customer refuses to wear a face covering, what should I do?
We're not actually allowed to prohibit someone from entering or being in our shop if they're not wearing a face covering. However, it might be really good to advise of the hand sanitizer that we've got available to them, or just inform them of the 2 metre rule that we're observing within our shops and stores, and hopefully there will be something that they feel they can take part in to help keep everybody safe and reduce transmission in our shops and stores.
So will scarves or t-shirts be permitted as face coverings?
So yes, they will be, because anything outside of that's covering your face, so your nose and your mouth, is seen as a suitable replacement for a more formal face covering. So if somebody does choose to use a scarf or a t-shirt instead of a formal face covering, then that will be accepted. That is a permitted face covering.
And will we provide free face coverings for customers?
Unfortunately, we won't be doing this, so customers will need to leave the premises to purchase a face covering, or if they are available from your shop or your store, they can purchase one from you. A really handy tip might be to find out locally where sells face coverings in your area, just in case you are a shop or store that maybe hasn't got any left or doesn't stock them for the customer to purchase. So hopefully that has helped, but if you did feel comfortable and safe to have a conversation, here are some things to consider or to bear in mind. Always remain calm and give yourself that moment or two to think before you say or do anything. You could say in a really, really friendly voice, in a really positive way, do you have a face covering with you today? You have the signage around the sales floor to support this bit of the conversation. You could similarly emphasise the we when mentioning social distancing and everybody keeping their distance between others. This makes it a group action and means that nobody's singled out and nobody's left isolated. And it's also really helpful to observe the other people's behaviour too, so that through their body language, their hand gestures, the tone of their voice if they speak, as this will really help you work out your response and ensure the conversation is positive. This is where we want you to check the tone that we're using as well as our body language. Is a world of difference between do you have a face covering with you today and do you have a face covering with you today? We would like to share the BHF positions in reference to social distancing with you next.
So will we have a one-way system in our shops and stores?
So this is something we've trialled in the past, but we will not be choosing to do this time. So no, there won't be a one-way system in any of our shops and stores.
Will a person be required to stand on the door to control numbers?
Again, we recognise that this is something that many shops and stores have chosen to do in the past, but we won't be opting to do this as a mandatory action. However, it may be necessary to monitor the door at really busy periods and ask customers to refrain from entering the shop or store until a person has left.
So let's cover the BHF's position on some of the other general COVID-19 questions. So will we advise or enforce the use of hand sanitizer?
So we'll encourage, but we won't enforce the use of hand sanitizer. We'll ensure that the provision is there and it's well signposted for all of our teams and customers to use, but we won't be enforcing it. It will be a positive encouragement.
Will the fitting rooms remain closed?
So as previously, we won't be reopening the fitting room, so they will still remain closed, and no trying on of garments or items will be permitted at this time. However, we do still have our refund policy in place.
And will we be resting stock?
So just before we entered lockdown 3, the resting stock requirement was relaxed and we weren't having to do that, and that will still be the case. So no, there's no requirements to rest stock when we return back into shops and stores, and following guidance and the government regulations, we're confident that this is still going to keep everybody safe.
So what posters or radio messages are we upgrading with new images or messages?
So the creative and design team have worked really hard at refreshing the materials that we've got. There will be new materials being circulated to all of our shops and stores throughout the reopening period. So please look out for those, and you will notice that the messaging and guidelines have been updated with the up-to-date information.
And are we staying with a preference of contactless payment, or are we going to stop taking cash and going contactless?
So our position on payment has not changed. We are retaining that we will accept all payment methods. So although we would prefer contactless, we will still be accepting cash across all of our shops and stores when we reopen. So another situation may arise. So if you haven't chosen to have a conversation with somebody because you don't feel confident and safe to do so, but a customer could also approach you and ask you to intervene because they've got some concern around another individual within the shop or store. Now, it's really important that we reassure this customer and acknowledge their concern to make sure that they feel heard. And sometimes the tone and the actions will be the way that we can do this. So always thank them for their concern, explain that we do have signs up and that most people are taking notice. Explain that not everybody is able to wear a face covering and actually some people are exempt from wearing them, but also reinforce them and reassure them about all the other things that we're currently doing within our shops and stores to keep everybody safe. So the hand sanitising stations, the observing of 2 metre distance and how we're encouraging that throughout the shops and stores, and also the thorough cleaning procedures that we've got in place to keep everything sterile and safe for people to use and come into contact with. And then finally, finish up with asking if there's something else that you can do to help them that day, as this will really help move that conversation on. And just like any customer service conversation you may have, thank them, address their concern and see if there's anything else you can help them with. However, please ultimately remember that nothing is more important than yours and others' safety in any situation.
And our paid staff and volunteers' safety is paramount, and at no point would we ever wish for this to be put at risk. We understand that not everyone will feel comfortable to deal with these situations, and that's okay. However, if you did feel okay to approach a customer, then please be aware of some extra support available to help with this. Some suggestions would be to set up a safe word or a phrase that is known and understood to all who work in the shop. This could be said when you felt you needed further assistance or needed a paid team member to deal with a situation. Further to this, the paid teams can call the police on 101 if they feel that a customer is purposely not cooperating and is causing a heated or confrontational situation or refusing to leave the shop once asked. However, if you or a colleague has had a particularly difficult situation, it's really important to talk to your manager about this and remove yourself from the sales floor for as long as you need. Grab a cup of tea and a biscuit and calm down and relax.
We call this debriefing. So debriefing is that safe space where you can talk things through, so how an event or an incident made you feel. It can help you to understand each other better as a team, work out how you might like to do things if it happens again, and actually help an individual process your thoughts, whether that's you or somebody else, so that they don't take that feeling or you don't take that feeling home with you in an evening. So it's really essential for good mental well-being that a debrief happens after any uncomfortable situation or where you didn't feel particularly safe. When debriefing becomes as part of an everyday, it can really enhance that resilience and it gives you that ability to bounce back. It also helps gain perspective on how you can understand what you can control in every situation, and it helps you evaluate essentially. So please make sure that that time between you and someone else is not interrupted. Please allow someone to listen and just explain how you feel. And actually, there's no right or wrong in a debrief. It's just expressing thoughts, expressing emotions, and it's a pure reflection space for that individual who's had that difficult situation.
And finally, we just wanted to share some of the suggestions for where to get extra support and guidance should you need it. So you could speak to your line manager, other paid team members, volunteer colleagues, and the BHF volunteer team. And you can also visit the My Retail Trust website with the web address just there for you, where you can look at extra resources to help you.
So to summarise, COVID-19 has caused us a lot of change in our day-to-day lives. For some, there have been big emotional challenges to overcome, and these are not always overcome in the most positive way due to so much going on. And whilst poor behaviour is not acceptable or condoned by the BHF, there are ways that we can handle situations should they arise in a friendly, positive and reassuring manner to keep everybody safe in our shops and stores. Please remember that there's no pressure or expectation for any of our volunteers or paid team members to approach customers and have conversations if they do not feel comfortable or equipped to handle them. Please always remember that your manager or another member of the paid team or colleague will be there to support you and step in to deal with any customers who show any levels of aggression or threatening behaviour. And then ultimately the police can be called if it's really necessary to do so. However, if you are feeling confident and comfortable and wish to speak with customers, then hopefully the scenarios we've covered in this video have really given you suggestions of how you could do this and what you should do if a customer is not cooperative with you and where to get that further support. But ultimately, please remember that keeping yourself safe and keeping everybody else safe is our paramount priority.
And lastly, and most importantly, thank you for all you do. And please let your managers know if there's anything you need from the BHF to further support you. There will be a chance on the next slide for reflection and further discussion with your team should you need it. But thank you for watching and for all you do to support the BHF in saving lives.
So we would recommend that you spend a few minutes to consider and discuss these following points with your colleagues. So firstly, how are you feeling after watching the video? And please be really open and honest and discuss it as much as you need to. Even if that is on a one-to-one meeting with your manager, that is perfectly fine, whatever works best for you. And what are the specifics for your shop and store? So what are the safety measures that are particularly being observed in your shop and store? Where is the hand sanitizer? What does the cleaning routine look like? And if you are on the sales floor, what are the total number of customers allowed in at any one time? Think about the things that you would really like to know. And again, discuss that as part of a group or with your line manager so that you feel informed. And finally, what's the process for getting support on the sales floor? So if there is a situation that particularly makes you feel uncomfortable or you just need that further support, is there a button that you would press to get that person to help? Is there a certain word or phrase that we need to create in your shop or store so that everybody is on the same page when dealing with these situations? So have a good think about those three questions and anything else that you need, and use this time to have that discussion with your line manager and with other people in your team to really get the best and make sure you feel safe and confident as we reopen our shops and stores. So thank you again for watching the videos, and we really look forward to welcoming you all back.